Ooh, the most above average podcast in the galaxy.
Turn the light off, like your memory
Welcome to the most above average podcast in the galaxy. I am your host, Coach Eric, and today's episode is brought to you by Novello. Whether you run a grocery store, cannabis dispensary, peptide company, or anything in between, your business runs on payments. But here's the truth. Most companies are unknowingly throwing away thousands of dollars every month in unnecessary processing fees. At Novello, we handle it all. Credit cards, bank transfers, and even crypto, securely and seamlessly anywhere in the world. We cut the fat from your payment processing, making every transaction smoother and putting those extra dollars right back into your business where they belong. Stop overpaying, start keeping more of what you earn, and visit novello.net and see how much you could save today. That's NIVELO.net. Unfortunately, we are again without Josh. And I don't know. I just feel like Josh is probably going through some kind of midlife crisis because I got a message from his brother. How his brother even got my phone number, I don't even know. But he told me that Josh was a camp counselor at a Pray the Gay Away community, and that he said that it wasn't working, but he was having a great time being a proud lesbian. And at this point, who am I to judge? So Josh, I hope you're finding peace in all your flicking the bean moments. Until next time, my friend. But today, I can see you holding that in. Today,
Very serious.
we are joined by my good friend, Mr. Elliott. Mr. Elliott, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm a fan of the show, so to be up here with you is definitely going to be a good time. We got some great questions, great topics, and you and I banter really well together. So I think it'll be a good one.
It was not planned, but we are both matching.
Well.
Beautiful beards, a very large but equally tight white shirts.
Very true. Very true.
That's a really weird thing about finding clothes. Once you get to a certain size, that you're just like, you know what? I know that things off the rack are going to make me look really, square and boxy. At what point do you just say, fuck it, I'm just going to look like SpongeBob SquarePants?
Very early on in my case. Funny enough, hold that thought just so you can see what's right next to me. So we got these are all the clothes I'm selling because I'm back in the off season. And
Can't
so I have a little Depop account, and I resell my 2XLs when I need my 4XLs, and then when I'm prep again, back to the 2XLs, and I'll sell off the 4XLs. So it's a consistent life cycle we got going.
But is that fun for you to do the constant, what do they call that? Retail therapy, where you've purged old and then you get to reinvent yourself with something new? Or is it a daunting task?
Unfortunately, I believe it's a illusion of girl math. My girlfriend brought this up to me, and I am in fact losing money doing this because I'm paying XYZ for X shirt, selling it for typically much less. But girl math does tell me I'm getting a new shirt and making money. So it's technically free shirt, free money.
Yeah,
And
you made $30 on that $80 shirt.
dude,
Girl math.
That's what she's telling me. So I'm rolling with it. It is it's a little daunting, but it's also kind of fun because you ever have like that not necessarily midlife crisis, but the clean out type of, you want to just be a bare minimalist like once a
Purging.
year type. Yes, exactly. So once a year I'm just like, why do I have 5? I just go through everything, and it does help keep that urge at bay. So it's solid.
I found out years ago, and I didn't really think about it at the time until someone brought it up to my attention, but I grew up in a very well-to-do area, and then I made this lateral move into an equally well-to-do area called Burlingame, which is a little bit south of San Francisco. That particular area between Burlingame, San Mateo, all the way down to Atherton, is filled with multimillionaires and a handful of billionaires. Larry Ellis lives out there from Oracle, things like that. So there's an area called Atherton. And through that community, it's very common to see homes anywhere between $15 and $30 million. And so I used to take what I would call motivational drives because I was never one to look at someone else's success and be mad about it. Be like, oh, they have so much, but I don't have any. Like, I looked at it that someone did that, so it's clearly possible. How do I do it? And how do I learn from their mistakes to do it better and do it faster?
Mhm.
And so what I started noticing was that a lot of truly wealthy people dress like they're homeless. And you would see things that were so similar. Be like, okay, everyone's wearing, the same shirt every day. And I didn't really think about it. And then someone said, you want to be effective. You don't want to be busy. So why am I going to waste 15, 20 minutes of my day wondering what I'm going to wear? So if I just buy 20 of the same thing, I just grab my shirt, grab my shorts, and just head out the door and start being productive with my day. So I started wearing all the same shirts, all the same tank tops. And one, it really sped up the first part of my day, but it also allowed me to buy things at a wholesale price and get them super, super cheap. I hate spending money on anything other than food. So my shirts I get from bulkapparel.com. So you're getting everything at what you would need generally like a resale license for, but you get everything at a wholesale price. This shirt, $2.50.
Wow. Okay.
So tank tops, I will only wear like the t-shirts, Guild and Soft Style. My tank tops are Guild and Dry Blend because they whisk the sweat away that much quicker when I'm wearing these underneath a sweatshirt at the gym. So I can take the sweatshirt off when I get home and my shirt is already dry by that time. And it didn't cost me an arm and a leg. So if something happens and the dog or the baby does something to one of my shirts, I'm like, oh my God, $2. Oh. And then I can go buy some really nice steak with all the money that I saved.
That's true.
Yep.
You're dressing efficiently and getting Wagyu. I can't argue
Yep.
with that progress. Yeah, being a dad, that's got to be something. You're just kind of anything of value around the home. You kind of have a little heart attack anytime they're crawling over that way.
I think for me, because I have two daughters. I have a 12-year-old and then I have a 3-month-old. And everyone will be like, oh, how come you're so excited that you're having a girl? Like, don't you want a boy? Don't you want someone to carry on the legacy? And I said, no, because boys are physically destructive and girls are just emotionally destructive. I can handle crazy women all day long, but I have really nice shit and I don't want to replace it.
True.
So I can deal with a little bit of, Dad, I hate you. Like, okay, I'm gonna go drive my really nice car. Later, bitch.
Yeah, that's true. I'd rather get called ugly than, have someone crash my BMW. So I vibe with that for sure.
I think the only thing that's ever happened that you already have an idea of what's going to happen. Your kids will say, well, I hate you. You guys are so mean. I was not emotionally prepared for when my kid said I wasn't cool. That's a whole new level of low. And I was like, first of all, I'm on the internet.
Check the followers.
Yeah. Check the followers, fool.
That's funny.
How many videos do you have that have over 1 million views? Do your homework.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're a public figure. You have, multiple businesses you're running. You have to remain optical. Okay. So being cool is not necessarily at the forefront of what we're trying to do here. All right. We're trying to move into that neighborhood we were just talking about. So if they don't get it, that's fine. They can sleep in the basement.
Yeah. Being honest, especially in the fitness community, is so crucial because the truth will always come out. And it does me no good to fluff up a situation or to lie about something that I said that I can do or will do because I'm plastered everywhere. So someone's going to go back and be like, hey, you remember that thing that you said? And be like, I can't remember the lie. I got way too much stuff going on. I'll forget in 5 minutes. So you have to be honest. But I wanted to bring this up, talking about being a public figure. I was driving by this place the other day and I had this fun memory flashback. So during COVID, the gyms out here in California were non-existent. You had to know someone who knew someone who would let you in through the back door of a quote unquote closed gym. it got to the point where it was so crazy that we were going to this gym in a church, and you'd have to park in the back parking lot, knock on the door, and they legitimately had a password. And I totally thought they were joking. So I get a text from a buddy of mine who was like, the password is salami. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I knock on the door, and the door slightly peeks open. I see one eyeball, and I'm like, pineapple. And the door slams. I'm like, no, salami, salami.
Oh, shit.
So then that gym shut down. They were, concerned about getting, all the law enforcement involved. So then we moved to this other gym called Fitness Systems in this town called Lincoln. It's in Northern California. It's north of Sacramento. And I met this gentleman, Matt August. Do you know who that is?
Not familiar.
Matt August was like one of like the original fitness YouTubers back in the day. And he's a super hardworking guy. And he's truly one of the nicest people you'd ever meet. Hard worker, films everything, brings a really nice camera, sets it up, and he documents everything. He was like, workout, this, tells the whole thing before he does it. And it's not like he's just there to like make content. He's truly putting in work. He lifts heavy ass weight. He's a great bodybuilder. And one day I asked him, it's like, what do you do with all this video footage? I see you film every single thing that you do. And he told me, it was like, if I ever got hit by a bus or something and I couldn't work out, I have over 2 years of content to be able to use. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty smart. And I was just coming into the bodybuilding coaching. I had already, established a very good track record with the powerlifting community. And I just liked being the shadow in the background. I'd helped other pro bodybuilders because, their coach, quote unquote, didn't know or whatever the true story was. And he goes, I see you being in front of the camera, being a public figure. And I was like, oh, you're crazy. I was like, no one wants to see my ugly face. And he goes, no, you just have few things to offer. And I was like, okay, well, I'll think about it. So then like 6-8 months later is when I hired Scott, my media guy, and he came, and that's how the Welcome to Lore came about. So someone's super small bit of encouragement to steer you in a different direction that you didn't even think was possible completely changes your life. So every time I see Matt August, I'm like, you said something and it truly changed my life for the better. So I always try to give credit where credit's due. So I don't think that I would have been coaching at the level that I do it, or, at least internationally, without that extra little nudge of like, hey, you could do that. You'd be fine at it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Sidebar here. Did you have any inspiration in coming up with your the sponsor to open the show, your business, where you are taking on, I imagine somewhat high risk clients, you mentioned for the credit card processing and everything. Did that have anything to coincide with you beginning your coaching journey?
No, two completely different things. I had, because I'm celebrating 18 years of coaching now, and yeah, I know I'm old. Well, I take that back. So I started helping people 18 years ago, but I didn't turn it into an actual business until about 6-ish years ago. That's like when I was like, okay, like we could really do something financially with this. And I think it's only been maybe 5 years that I've been doing it full time. Because I was always doing other things too. But then when I realized, I'm like, oh, hey, when you're good, you can make money. I mean, I guess there's some suck ass people that still make money too, but
Yeah,
no, that's when I took it big. But with Novello, Novello's a really interesting thing because a lot of people use Stripe. Sometimes they'll use Square, whatever, but Stripe is a really easy thing to get into. And you're paying for the convenience because you're losing 3.9% of every transaction, plus it's generally, I think it's about 30 cents per transaction. And then if you have it set up for reoccurring charges, you're my athlete and every month you pay me whatever it is. Every time that Stripe does one of these reoccurring things automatically, not only do you lose the 3.9% plus the 30 cents, you also lose $2. So if you have a high ticket coach where, you're charging anywhere between $300-500 per month, bro, almost 4% every transaction, that shit adds up. Mm-hmm. And so when we started getting into what the banks would call high risk, so like a majority of what I focus on is the peptide companies, real medical clinics, whether it be hormone replacement, dentist office, dermatology things, all sorts of estheticians, stuff like that. I focus on those kind of businesses because I will do business development with those people. It's not just, let me take over your payment processing and good luck. I need you to succeed. So I'm going to go over everything with your business and figure out how we can trim the fat off and how to help you scale. Because if you're in one of these high risk businesses and you're, let's say, the peptide, because that's what the kind of world that we're in. If you have a peptide company and you're doing anything other than 6 figures a month, something's wrong. You are either atrocious at marketing or you don't have your pricing set up correctly. Because if you have an affiliate program set up and you're not doing a minimum of $1 million a year, something's truly wrong because you should be able to print money. Same thing with hormone replacement clinics. And so a lot of the stuff that I do as far as the payment processing things are how to streamline that process, because what you're looking at is the bank is going to take, your business as a high risk business. And those processing fees are dramatically higher than like a grocery store. So you're going to look at anywhere between 6 and 15% of every transaction getting taken from the bank. Wow. My job is to go in there, put that business with the correct bank. Now, there's a lot of people that will come there and be like, oh, well, I'm the middleman. Like, I'm going to take all your information and give it to these people, and then they're going to figure it out, and then I'm just going to do the split. I don't do that. I take your business and I personally match it with the correct bank who's going to take it and do the right deal. So, like, for example, if you were an established peptide company, you've already been in business and you're doing good money, I can get that rate significantly lower than if you were a brand new business, because a brand new business to them is, well, we don't know, are you going to be just a pump and dump kind of thing? And we have to worry about chargebacks. So we could do an entire episode just on the payment processing world, and it's wild. So
that's interesting. Yeah. I appreciate the insight there. I was just curious because that coincides really well with, both of your business ventures, especially like you mentioned, the peptide world that we're in. As I think we've just noticed, on the political spectrum, on the social media spectrum, censorship has been somewhat pulling back, I feel like, in certain, places like Twitter, Snapchat, and things like that. And so there's been much more need for high risk processing. I've noticed just with people, everyone has merch, everyone has something these days. So that's a good field to be in for today's period, I feel like. And that was interesting.
yeah, and a lot of people, like, there's always crazy speculation on the internet. It's, people making up situations that they know nothing about. So then I read it and I'm just like, that just sounds crazy. That doesn't even make any legitimate sense. So when you're looking at like what's going on right now with the peptide world, and we're seeing the compounded version of products like the GLPs, for instance, a lot of the banks that currently have merchants accounts with people, some of like the big name peptide companies that you and I both know, they're removing all of their GLPs because the parent company that makes Ozempic is suing everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a small little rinky-dink guy selling shit out of your garage, they're going after everyone. And so a lot of the banks are dropping merchants. Some are lucky enough to get the option, be like, hey, remove these products, otherwise we're going to drop you. And some are not. Like, we had a couple of companies that we got an email from the bank, and they were like, just so you know, effective immediately, you guys are fucking done. And so then it puts people in a huge panic mode because, that's someone's livelihood. And all of a sudden you're saying, hey, you can no longer accept payments on your product effective right now. And then it becomes my responsibility of like, oh my God, someone's livelihood is truly in my hands. I need to fix this. So doing the banking side of the Novello company is way more stressful than coaching. Like, I coach well over 100 athletes every week on my roster, and I can do that with both my arms behind my back. But when you've got someone who's like, hey, we do $300,000 a month, and all of a sudden we can no longer make money, you best believe I lose sleep over that real quick.
Yeah. It's an interesting time right now, in regards to what we're seeing with the GLPs. We're hearing a lot. Unfortunately, it looks like there's got the attention of people upstairs in government and those bigger companies. I think we all kind of knew this was bound to happen. not as someone, who's a huge component and user of these, I'm more worried about just sourcing than necessarily income loss and things like that. Although that will definitely hurt, but there's when if it works, they try to take it away. It's a story as old as time. Unfortunately, just the almighty dollar is turning the gears here. I believe. I'm sure you're
Oh,
getting a lot
sure.
of
You're
questions.
getting political pressure, and the people that have the power are concerned about their pockets too. And when they're getting kickbacks from big pharma, it's just part of the game. Just like with taxes, they wrote the rules for taxes, and it's just our responsibility to play their tax game. So spend a little bit of time, understand, what's truly happening with American taxes, and figure out how you can set up your own business and which state it needs to be based out of and how you need to do your write-offs. Because same kind of thing, if you're voluntarily just giving them money every year, something ain't right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's a good point.
anyway, the Novello thing's wild. The cool thing is, like, we have all sorts of neat things where we can even structure like an e-commerce system for crypto. So most of the time, like when you see people doing crypto, they're like, oh, we accept Bitcoin. And in a peer-to-peer transaction of me sending you money, it costs the person sending the money a huge amount. Like the fees for that are crazy. Same thing with Ethereum. You got the gas fees. And if it's a busy time during the network, those gas fees could be anywhere from $3 up to $100. And if you're just trying to send someone $50 and it's like, by the way, you owe an additional $100, whoa, homie, I don't want to deal with that. So some of the systems that we use, not all of them, but we try to pair people with the right ones, and that we have 30 different cryptocurrencies that are available. So you can limit it as the merchant, be like, hey, I only want to accept Litecoin, or hey, I only want to accept Ripple or a stable coin, whatever it may be. And then you have that option. And then everything is done on site. So it's not like it's taking someone from your website to somewhere else and then brings you back. Most people don't like that. So we can build everything on an on-site payment, so that if you don't have crypto and you're like, oh man, I don't have this weird digital money that you speak of, how can I pay you? You can still pay with the debit or credit card. It just goes through a process, switches from fiat to digital, sends it to their wallets, and then they're like, cool, I got paid. Here's your shit.
That's nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the things that my biggest concern was too, and where I kind of saw things headed was the crypto route. There's been a ton of high risk individuals selling things like shirts and hats, and they get banned, and you're just they can only accept crypto. So I was hoping that's where the space kind of goes to, is we are still, as bodybuilders and athletes, have easy, quote unquote easy access to these types of products that are absolutely paramount to me. Someone getting ready to be in prep like Retta need, so it's hopeful. I'm hopeful that's where the space moves and the access is there.
There push comes to shove, find yourself an established coach who has good connections, because products will always become available.
Mhm.
You just got to know the right people and which avenue to look at.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Same thing.
Hypothetical.
Like my mushroom guy is not worried about going out of business.
Yeah. I feel
We're
that.
gonna be just fine, buddy.
Yeah. Send me his number when we're done here too, by the way. Just
Oh
kidding.
man, speaking of mushrooms, this has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about with the podcast. But I went to this light thing the other day with the family, and it was, one of those big, gigantic, you walk through the entire, it was at the Cal Expo. So it's this gigantic outdoor light show. And so they have all these, they kind of look like those Asian lanterns, but they're of people and stuff like that. You walk through, we must have walked through at least like 12 acres of just all these lights. And it was beautiful. It was amazing. They had rides. It was like a whole little fair. So the kids had a great time and whatnot, but we walked in, I was like, wow, look at all these lights. I'm like, this has been really cool to be on mushrooms for. And as we walked and we started seeing more characters, and like, some of them looked like little anime characters. I'm like, probably pretty good it wasn't on a bunch of mushrooms, because I'd have been really tripping balls for that.
Yeah.
The Asian lady's looking at me.
That's so funny. Yeah. It's always like, the first hour, after you hit is like everything's beautiful, you can hold a conversation, and then, that 90-minute mark is like, you think everyone's talking to you in the room and no one's even looking at you. And that's where you need to just be back at home.
I'm really particular about the strains that I like to use because most people when they're like, "Oh, I took magic mushrooms," they're talking about penis envy, which is the more common one that people use. Every strand, just like marijuana, like every strand does something a little bit different. I really enjoy the avalanche strand because it really sparks creativity. So if you're doing assisted meditation, it's great for that. It's great to just kind of like, if I need to do a bunch of work and I'm just like, man, like I'm just like sitting there drawing a blank, give me 20 minutes. And then all the creative juices to start flowing. And I'm like, bam, 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 bam. But I don't think we talked about this the last time we talked on a podcast for this particular situation. But I make the recommendation to people that are like, oh man, like I'm taking a gram or taking 2 grams and like I'm just kind of not really feeling it. Like, I'll do you one better. Drink a ginger ale. It could be any kind of carbonated drink, but when you're dealing with the Bohr effect and you get the carbon dioxide coming in and it tells the body to release more oxygen, circulate through the body, when you drink a ginger ale and you take the mushrooms, bro, it hits you so hard.
Wow.
It's so aggressive. I learned that by accident because I drank champagne with it one time and I did like a movement with my hand and my hand was pixelated and I was like, oh, this is dope.
That's awesome. That's funny. It's always the accidental combinations that we seem to figure out the best routes.
Cooking's that way too. I'm sure you've goofed around in the kitchen. And you're like, oh man, that was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I luckily our mutual friend Brandon, he just put me on the that mushroom blend. You might know what I'm talking about, you might not, but we can talk about it after to get more specific. But it's been a really nice creativity space for work. You're exactly right. I feel a little more than New Pep. I like it much better than Adderall or anything, just microdosing, and then a little methylene blue too. And like the creative juices are flowing.
Oh, methylene blue, yeah, that's a nice combo for sure.
Yeah, and then take a walk after in your neighborhood, and it's a great day.
Man, there's something about walking in the cool winter air. Like you're a little bit warmer than we are right now. It's cold as shit over here.
Hmm.
But just getting a cold breeze on your face when you're just walking around, oh, it's so refreshing. It's so nice. It's like sleeping with the fan on.
It is, yeah, no doubt. We're very lucky here in Destin, Florida. It's like 60 degrees, 65 degrees.
Well, that's
A
nice.
little
That's not too
rainy,
bad.
not
Yeah.
bad at all. So been hitting my steps and everything as we gear up to get shredded. So it'll be I do find that fun.
Speaking of gearing up, how was nationals?
Nationals was stacked. Men and women, great show. Female bodybuilding. Did you see the winner there?
I saw a handful of pictures. I was looking at some stories from Justin Jacoby, and man, he brought some girls. Oh man.
Yeah. Excellent showing. It was really nice. My client's wife was competing on the Friday, and unfortunately, my female clients had health problems, and we weren't able to get on stage, and that was rough. But I was still in the audience, and yeah, it was a great female bodybuilding show. Physique was really good. And that was really nice to see coming from, being at USA's and everything. And there was a lot of internet babble about the quality. And I think the volume is probably the biggest issue. When you have 2 to 3 female bodybuilders show up and 2 of them get pro cards, we can't be doing that. And so it was nice to see nationals have that prestige at every level. That's something that I've always attributed to nationals, was a higher level of competition. Again, never taking away from the USA or North Americans title, but Kevin Levrone, these national champions that we all know about, Hunter Labrada, they're great. And so the men also held their own. Classic and bodybuilding was phenomenal.
I saw pictures and I was looking at guys like in the third call outs. I'm like, that guy looks great. Man, the rest of these guys must have been phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my guy got second call outs, Cooper Terry. He was peeled to the bone. I mean, we had conversations where it's like, we had an idea of who was going on and everything, and our predictions were not even there. We were going for first call outs. He's a younger guy, first national showing, and Yeah, it was the heavyweight class, 37 deep, I wanna say, and then super heavies was deep. I mean, when Trey Addict doesn't win a pro card, in the super heavy class, if you're familiar with him, he's an amazing bodybuilder, veteran, and there's been, I mean, the guy who won, his waist was like nothing, and I think he trains at Muscle Factory too, and
Oh,
that's where
okay.
my client trains, so they, yeah, the Texas, crowd showed out for nationals. It was fun. It was a good time.
I always like that. I notice that every year you're seeing like very good competitive hubs of people. Like sometimes, they come out of New York, then they were coming out of Florida, then they're now,
Mhm.
Texas was a great one. And sometimes, they're just kind of scattered all over. And you're just like, wow, like what is going on in that part of the country that you're breeding so many top tier athletes at a particular time? I don't know if that's something you've ever noticed, but man, like for a while there was a crazy amount of girls coming out of Miami.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Miami is have you ever been to Miami?
Real briefly, I haven't spent like enough time to be like, oh, I know the community well.
Gotcha. It's very fitness oriented, and I think, when nationals was hosted there, that kind of ingrained a bit of a culture. They have some amazing gyms, but you walk around outside and you're just like, "That person must compete." And, that's just they're living life, baby. They're not dieting or anything, so there's a lot of great physiques, out there, and then Florida's somewhat of an extension of that. Even in my area, the Northwest Florida, we've got amazing talent. I mean, my clients out here, we've won 4 pro cards this year just within a 30-minute driving distance of my home, so there's a
That's
lot
awesome.
of those talent pools you're talking about, and Texas wins. They won this year, man. That I mean, even the Texas State show before, did you see any of those? A week before
On the pro side or the amateur one?
the amateur show a week before nationals.
No, I didn't have anyone in it, so I didn't watch it.
Got you. It broke a NPC record, for the number of competitors. It was insanely stacked, because everyone there is just doing nationals the next week. So it was like a preview for the locals, and yeah,
Dusting off some
absolutely.
cobwebs. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was great. It was hands down, best nationals I've been to, and I've been to quite a few of them coaching, so it was fun.
Yeah, there's always at least one show that you're like, damn, that one lives in my head rent free. Where you
Yes.
just look at everyone and they're like, shit, I don't know how these judges are going to pick a winner because they all look great.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and the venue, I think Tyler Mannion should get a lot of credit for the venue and everything. The Irving Convention Center's amazing, like, it looks like the Olympia almost, like, you walk in and there's 30 booths, 30, 50 booths, and, everyone is kind, the audience is huge, they have the projection screens for the stage if you're in the back, tons of VIP seating, private bathrooms for the competitors,
Oh, wow. That's nice
multi-level
too.
floors. Yeah, for tanning, just a really great venue, and then you mentioned Justin Jacoby and all the we all see everyone we know, and so it's a nice little meetup and everything, and, when you turn pro, at nationals, it's like a high school reunion almost, like those guys, Justin O'Donnell and all my friends, they all, are coming back and everything, so it was good vibes, a good time, and, yeah, I think that's what amateur and national bodybuilding should be, just like nationals. Like we don't need a ton of shows. Let's just keep it really competitive and deep.
You hit it on the head. I was just going to say, we didn't used to have a gazillion shows. And I remember out here in California, in Northern California, we would have a thing called the Contra Costa. And it was John Lindsay's production. This is back in the day. And it was the thing to go to. I haven't been to a bodybuilding show in the last, I don't know, at least 8 years that more than four people dressed really nice for the finals. It
Mhm.
used to be the thing, you'd go watch your friends in, normal gym clothes for the prejudging. You'd come back and everyone would be in a nice button up shirt. Women were in, big heels, sometimes dresses, sometimes, whatever it may be. But you put forth some efforts into the appearance because it was a thing to do. Now people just kind of show up and they're just like, yay, good job, team. Like, it's like no one's living in the moment. Everyone is so focused on staring at their screen. I'm like, bro, you're not living it.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
wife and I are horrible at taking pictures when we go places because we're just enjoying the time. We've been all over the place and we maybe have like a total of 20 pictures for all these different trips. The most the most video or pictures or anything like that was the first time we went to Mexico together, and I filmed everything. I was making it like this fun little vlog, and I get to go back and I get to relive those memories, which is great. But I'm like, man, we really suck about documenting our adventures because no one would know except for the one time we went to Mexico and filmed the whole thing.
Yeah. That says so much about your relationship, though. That's a good thing. I have that same problem in mine as we don't get a lot of pictures because we're like, one, living in the moment, two, we like our privacy, and it's much better that way. The only thing that's kind of saving me in terms of like, posting for my mom and things like that is I'm dating a much younger girl, so they're always about the technology. She knows all the filters and all that make me look good, and so she, we're doing a little better, but living in the moment's big too.
Yeah. My wife is a handful of years younger than me, and it's only 4 years, but the lingo was so different when we met. She was still in college because she was one of my athletes. And then I dipped the pen in the company ink. But one time I sent her a message and I was like, hey, how's the gym? And she goes, whew, hella heads here. And I was like, I don't know what that means. So I had to look it up on Urban Dictionary, and I was like,
Oh my God.
oh, lot of people. Yeah, dope.
That's funny as fuck.
So
That's funny.
it took a little bit of time to find a nice middle ground, because I was like, bro, I've been out of high school a long time. Like, I don't know anything that you're saying.
Yeah. That's it's crazy, like just the little differences too, because her and I are both Gen Z, and luckily she doesn't have like internet brain or anything, or Reddit brain. So sometimes I'm just talking, I'll say like chopped, I'll say like unk, and I'm like, who am I?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to just throw that out there, but yeah, the diction, the dialogue, it's getting deep out there, man. There's a lot of
My
lingo.
12-year-old comes home and she'll say stuff, and I'm like, meow, I got
Yeah.
nothing.
That's funny.
And we were giving her a hard time the other day because she was doing the whole 6-7 thing, and I'm like, it just sounds dumb. And then we started thinking about, like, did we do stupid shit when we were that age too? And I was like, I'm sure we did, but it didn't seem stupid to us, so let her ride it.
Yeah.
And I was like, who are we to judge? Because we grew up with Beavis and Butthead. I
Never
am the great
seen
cornholio.
Never seen that one. I
What?
don't get the 6-7. Yeah, I'm like the in between, dude. Like mid-20s is like we're lost. We have no idea what we're doing.
You
out
never
here.
saw Beavis and Butthead?
No, bro. 2000 babies have like no idea what's going on because you got the millennials right above you. And then
you got some homework to do, man. You got to watch Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Do America. Is that a movie?
It's a movie, yeah.
Is it a cartoon or
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's a cartoon.
Like Family Guy?
Yeah, it was the original raunchy before Family Guy came out.
Okay.
It wasn't even raunchy. It was just stupid comedy. Like the guy would put his shirt over his head. He'd be like, I am the great cornholio. I need tipi for my bunghole. And that was an entire generation of people going, I need tipi for my bunghole. Like, that is equally as stupid as the 6-7 thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what 6-7 is yet, but that might be a little higher.
According to even this generation, they will tell you that it means nothing, that it's just them saying that, and that it's stupid. I don't know any other way to describe it other than, I'm like, you're just saying words that don't have any meaning.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then there's this, right? 6.
Yeah. What the hand juggle thing?
Yeah. No one clipped that, by the way. No one clipped that. I cut that out.
It's gonna be all over the internet. Elliott 6-7.
Yeah, because I still don't know what that means, but I'll be on TikTok. I'll find it out. Do my research.
There you go. TikTok's a great place to do research.
The best. Never opinionated.
That's how I get all my medical advice.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I was like, we kept getting off on these tangents, and I was like, there was something that I really wanted to say. You're a little bit younger than me, but I don't know if you remember any of this. Do you remember growing up with having like the internet forums for all the bodybuilders and whatnot? Or was that before your time?
No. I remember. I, I I think I was like on the cusp. Like when I was a teenager in high school, that was just fading out. I
Yeah.
remember getting into some of them and, just being totally over my head in terms of the abbreviations and, EOD. I was like, what drug is that? Every other day. And so I had a introduction, but go on. I'm curious to learn more.
So when I was coming up, the internet was very limited. This was slightly after dial-up time. So, if you had high speed, you were rolling in it, boy. And so there was a handful of forums. Most people were on the pro muscle. The one that I was on a lot was the anabolic steroid form. And I brought this up because a buddy of mine, who's a coach that I really enjoy and I really respect, and he sends me a message and he goes, "Hey, I have this new athlete. I'm rescuing him from a bad coach," which, it happens from time to time. And he sends me the guy's protocol. And I'm like, well, that just doesn't even make any sense. You got 3 different things all doing different directions. And he was like, I know it's bad. And so I'm like, that name doesn't really sound familiar. Do I know who that is? And he sends me a guy's Instagram thing. And here's this guy who's saying that he's this personal trainer. And thankfully, he was smart enough to show the distinction between that he was a personal trainer, not a coach. But he was offering people fitness programs, meal plans, and I'm sure at some point he probably even offered protocol related stuff too. And I'm scrolling through his stuff and I'm like, okay, just kind of looks like a jabroni. And he's posting stuff on his story, bragging about how he makes all of his people sign these crazy non-disclosure contracts, and that if you violate it, then he's going to sue you. And because you sign it, it's basically an automatic win for him in court. So he's laughing and bragging about how he sued all of these people that paid him for coaching. And he was like, I just got an easy $5,000 from that person. He's like, I'm up to 3 so far this year. And I'm like, you sound like a piece of shit. And then I thought about it for a little bit. So I told my buddy who's the coach, and I was like, hey, I want you to be really careful with people like that, because those kind of people have very strong limitations in a lot of aspects of life. And anyone that's truly at a top tier level, whether it be business development, what we do with coaching or being an educator, we give out information for free because we're truly trying to help other people. I don't make anyone sign any bizarre contracts. Like, I didn't generate the science. I'm just showing you things that work. If anything, like, I've learned a tremendous amount from other people. Dr. Scott Connolly, Dave Palumbo has been a huge influence for all sorts of cool stuff. Not to say that those are the only 2 people, but there's a lot of people that I've learned stuff from. And what good would it do for me to take the information that I learned from them and then put it in some weird paywall that only you can see, but don't tell anyone else? And I was just like, you know what? That's just so crazy that someone would think that, they're essentially, this Adonis of knowledge, and it's exclusive to me. And that's not how this works, not for long-term success. But it made me think, this is a really long story. It made me think about going back to the forum days. And because you had half information, you generally had bro science, but very few people had access to true medical professionals. And I got really lucky when I started getting into bodybuilding at, like the chemical side of things, that I got introduced to a hormone replacement specialist. I want to say his name because he's still in practice. And he's the guy who supplied all the gear for the 49ers, the Oakland A's, a bunch of other big name teams. So I learned all sorts of stuff about how to get over drug testing related stuff and all sorts of crazy things that he taught me. This guy was, I was 19 and he was 53, and he looked like he was barely 30. And he was just, he just was skin and veins everywhere. And I remember like, how much cardio do you do? And he's like, cardio? He was like, bro, I had pizza last night. He's like, I take a unit of growth every night before I go to bed. It was like, it literally prevents me from getting fat. It's like, teach me your ways, man. Teach me your ways. But I had access to those kind of people really early on. So then I was able to take the bro science that people were spewing on the internet and then cross-reference it with what the medical community says. Try and find that nice balance between what truly works in a medical sense, what's an athletic dose, and try and find like a happy medium to prevent side effects or any kind of other health related issues. I bring this up because I heard someone the other day talking about the abuse of metformin and that it's a necessity to take growth hormone with it because metformin kills IGF. I bring this up because there was a gentleman on the forum, and if someone remembers this and they're old like I am, his name was Uncle M. That was his handle. He ended up turning pro, but the company that he was a rep for, he was like, you guys don't even know what you're missing. Like metformin is like insulin in a tablet. You don't have to stab yourself. You don't have to worry about dying because it's not going to cause you to go to that extremity of hypoglycemic. So I was like, give me the metformin. Took it, ate how he recommended. And I was like, dude, like, I'm just so full all the time. I'm so huge, bro. But then it made me think there's other things out there that restrict IGF production. And that I don't believe the abuse, I don't want to call it abuse, that sounds wrong, but the overuse of metformin is truly that detrimental that you couldn't utilize it to your advantage and worry about not producing IGF. And how much is it truly reducing your IGF production? Because ideally, when you're taking insulin or metformin for this particular example, is you're trying to give the pancreas a break from the huge amount of quantity of food that you're consuming. But, I mean, there's things like tamoxifen, Nolvadex. That reduces IGF production. No one says shit about that. So it's like, are you going to claim that one thing's so evil over something else? Because I would say that metformin is significantly more beneficial than Nolvadex. There's way better. Hang on. There are alternatives. Some might say better, some might say worse, for estrogen control. That was a very long story to tell you about the metformin and IGF related thing. Do you have an opinion on metformin and its quote unquote detrimental effect on IGF levels?
Yeah. First of all, like, you're telling me that NFL players aren't natural?
Can't
What?
believe it.
No way. But yeah, I think metformin is something that I have done a lot of research in because it was so tantalizing when I first got into growth hormone usage. And it does, in human trials, downregulate somewhat of, your IGF-1 production, but it is, again, your natural production. So I don't believe it's going to blunt the effects of a synthetic growth hormone or, IGF-1 inducing secretagogue or something like that. The downside of metformin that I find personally comes in the digestion aspects of it and the nutrient uptake. So I am, if you're doing 500 milligrams of metformin, I like 500 milligrams of berberine. There's a lot of studies we have that show the effectiveness of the, milligram per milligram dosage of both, somewhat comparable. But again, you said it, it's like, tamoxifen, cabergoline, these things downregulate IGF-1. People still take their growth hormone, go get an IGF-1 test, and they're like, it came back at 100. It must be bad growth hormone. It's like, well, not necessarily, because you don't really want a bunch of IGF-1 in your bloodstream. You want it binded at the skeletal muscle tissue where it's not going to show on your blood test. It's somewhat like a free testosterone test. There's not like a great way to truly test your natural IGF-1. And so when you have, synthetic growth hormone in play, I'm not a believer that you're going to downregulate that with once or twice a day, 500 milligrams of metformin here and there. Same goes with, serums and AIs that, allegedly downregulate it. And I believe it's a downstream effect too. It's not necessarily a selective effect. So I will never let the potential side effect of something compromise my implementation of what I believe to be really effective in terms of, synergy.
I've always enjoyed metformin. I get, that a lot of people have the digestion issues, which causes the runs and other issues. I think it's a great learning tool for people to be aware of what's going on with their body and how to time nutrition. If you don't have a coach and you're trying to truly learn, which I implore everyone to do, I think it's great that you have a coach, but I think you should also either be asking all the questions to learn or do a little bit of self-experimentation. I mean, that's how most of us figured out what truly works and what doesn't, is from just trying shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and at what point, do you find out that, oh, hey, that was too much? You're not gonna know. Your coach isn't gonna know, because unless they're with you for every cycle, every training program, to know, okay, hey, we really pushed test and all you got was, bloated and side effects. That's too much. You should have your own little bit of Rolodex of information to relay to who's ever helping you, guide you, because that's what the coach is there to do. It's just to guide you. So you could be like, hey, I know that anything over 300 milligrams a week of trinacetate really flares up my prolactin level. Perfect. That's great information for me to have, because now I can steer you in the right direction to where we can stay away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with testosterone. Oh, okay. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Testosterone. For the longest amount of time, everyone's like, oh, which testosterone is best? Is there one that's better or worse? Oh, test is just testosterone. And when you look at it, yes, testosterone is just testosterone, but the ester behind it does change how it's reacting as far as seat of the pants feel. Like when you look at, common things that most people would use, either test sip, test enanthate, on paper, they look very similar. You're like, oh, okay, the active life, comparable with each other. A 1's 8 carbon, 1's a 7 carbon. So on paper, the enanthate, based on the 7 carbon structure, you're getting more per milligram per cc. But real seat of the pants will give you a completely different effect. You know, I feel completely different, both even on an emotional level, using test enanthate over test sip, or using test iso. And then even test prop gives a dramatically different emotional feeling behind that. Is that something that you notice too, or do you have people that give you that kind of feedback?
Yeah, I think ever since the Vigorous Steves kind of brought that comparison into the space, that there's been a lot of people self-reflecting on anecdotal experiences between the esters, because the information we have is pretty inconclusive. I have noticed on SIP, I have a little more emotional flare-ups, not necessarily anxious flare-ups, but somewhat. I would say estrogenic. In terms of things making me sadder than normal. And then on test E, I have much higher cognitive just reform. I wake up almost more energized, and I go to bed with more energy too. Now my blood work doesn't change. Nanogram per deciliter still reads XYZ, but in terms of just anecdotal feedback from myself and clients, yeah, I think E has the the that ester benefit that the sip seems to not have. And I know Steve covered that pretty in depth. That's something I'll have to do a little more research on. All I have is my experiences and clients. And while I'm not going to say it's going to make or break your prep or anything like that, I do believe you need to optimize what makes you feel the best.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with the more of the emotional side of things from the sip, because like right now, it's holiday time, so we watch a lot of cheesy Christmas movies, and with an anthate, I'm like, oh, that was an enjoyable movie. But I know that when I run the same dose in a sip, I'm like, oh my god, she just went back home and she wanted to save the family farm.
Yep. Yeah, it's like everything makes you extremely grateful.
Sensitive.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
very, very sensitive. Not on edge in an anxious way, but yeah, if a dog got hit by, a car on trend, you're like, okay. You walk on sip, you're like, oh, well, I might, cry a little bit.
I'm gonna make a little burial for him. I'm gonna say a prayer.
Yep, I'm gonna name
You
him,
know,
all that good stuff.
his name was Rusty. Oh God, he lived such a good life. So,
Absolutely.
everyone, I love talking with other coaches, because everyone has similarities but they also have a different philosophy that makes it their own.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to testosterone, for the most part, I've never, assuming the athlete is in true contest shape, I've never really felt the necessity to take away their long ester testosterone and switch it to something like prop. Um, every once in a while you run into people that just aromatize like it's nobody's business, especially with SIP, and they're just holding crazy amounts of water. And I'm like, all right, homie, we got to switch it up because your body is just fighting us tooth and nail. But for the most part, I've run people for years on either an enthate or cypionate and never felt the necessity to switch them over. Maybe like 2% of people I've had to switch over. Um, is that similar to what you do, or do you change everyone?
Yeah, I could count on one hand the amount of people that I've in a prep situation gone from a long ester to a short ester. I don't think it really holds much cosmetic benefit, the ester change. Obviously, the aromatization is impactful, but typically, and you can correct me, but the context, people are usually, they're like, okay, well, SIP is 2 weeks in the body, so 2 weeks out, we'll pull it out, and then we'll put in prop for like 7 days. And I'm like, the math ain't even math in there, but that's fine. Yeah, I don't think that the reasoning for having the testosterone, in a contest prep setting, I think it should really just be to fuel your growth hormone for the IGF-1 conversion. I think it should be to keep a super physiological level of androgens for your central nervous system, for your sex drive, for things like that. That will eventually die off anyways as estrogen gets crushed. But I haven't seen, a huge cosmetic benefit from going to prop. And yeah, when I do, it simply has to do with the aromatization relation. So there's not necessarily a direct correlation or an improvement, I would say.
Yeah. Oh man, I had a question in my head and it just boom, completely escaped. Just left the chat.
Always happens.
It always happens. Um, I I had a really interesting conversation with someone the other day. We were talking about IGF and all the different variations of it between the LR3, the peptide version of the DES, and then you got the Increlex. I don't know anyone that's ever run Increlex for a long duration of time, and whether it be, just budget restraints because it's expensive or what, but I know, oh, okay, that's what it was. It was estrogen related thing. I'll go back to the IGF thing, but this is important. When the body produces a large amount of estrogen, you're also able to generate more IGF production. So I had an experiment that I started doing for myself, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. And I've tried this on and off with a bunch of gear, with no gear, other than just test, just to see what it would do. If you take all of your testosterone for the week in one shot, and I'm not talking like HRT, like I'm talking like big boy dose, like we're doing like 3 to 5 cc's in a single injection, you get a bigger conversion of testosterone into estrogen, the aromatization process. I had a theory that if you could spike your estrogen to increase IGF production, that even though you might be holding on a little bit of extra water retention, which elevated estrogen could lead to fat gain for sure, but I wanted to think about how much tissue could I truly put on in these timeframes if I spiked my estrogen to increase the IGF production. Now, I think that most people would probably steer away from something like that, but I thought it was a really interesting conversation, and I'd never met anyone else who did stupid shit like that. So I wanted to hear, one, your opinion on it, and two, have you ever done anything like that? Because when I was at my biggest and I was like a lean 280 pounds, I just had shit to do. So I didn't have time to do like these, daily injections, which I probably should have just sucked it up and made my schedule work better. But I was doing 6 cc's in each shoulder once a week.
How do you even do that? That's crazy.
So you got to get the 5 cc syringes. They're short. It's like a chode because they're shorter, but they're really wide. So when you're doing your shoulder, you can actually get your thumb and your fingers around to push the plunger down.
Wow.
Fun little hack. But with the 5 cc ones, when you get them from NitPro or BD, either one, they truly can hold 6.5 cc's. Fun fact.
Of course.
Of course.
That's hilarious.
So
Yeah,
I did that and it worked, it worked because I've done that much testosterone. At the time, I was doing about like 1,800 milligrams of test a week just to kind of see what would happen. And I've tried that multiple times. And I did it where I split the injections, and I did it where I was doing these gigantic once a week, huge amounts of oil. And I noticed that even though I was more watery, I definitely was packing on tissue at a more elevated rate.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the whole question there is what method would you use to increase that estrogen? Because in the sense where you're, increasing your androgen total to, have your aromatization factored in, that's something I've done too, and I currently do with clients and myself. I've heard just around the industry of people taking actual estrogen while super spiking their growth hormone, before bed, times like that. And I'm not necessarily. I don't think you should take something for a side effect. It's like I wouldn't take more anadrol to kill my appetite in a contest prep situation. I think there are better ways to work around that. So I do think that the practicality comes into play. I can't write it in a program for someone to do that much in their shoulders and everything. And I know I'm kind of a baby, so I wouldn't do that myself. But yeah, I've loved higher estrogen totals in the off season. And I can give you somewhat of a number, 50 to 70. I really like that for me personally. And then my testosterone will be about 5,000, and it would be about that 1,200 dose range. And I would do 300 every other day. So it's around 4 injections a week. And that yielded amazing benefits with the serotonin cycle I was running too. And on my pre-cycle bloods, mid-cycle bloods, my estrogen remained at that state. I didn't take an AI. I was just cycling Masteron with it, and that had immense benefits. So you're 100% right there. Cosmetically, it's not that pleasing. In clothes, it looks great because you're so round from that water. But the
And then the
midsection,
pump cover comes off, and they're like, "Oh, he's bloated."
it's like, oh, he works at Popeyes. Yeah. And then, you just have high sodium mineral retention from the diet and things like that in the off season too. So as long as hypertension's in check and everything, I love having people walk around in that range, and it's neurologically protective too. So I think it's beneficial. The pendulum is swinging back of the anti-estrogen people seem to be over it. It used to be the take 10 letrozole the night before the show crowd. They've simmered down, and I think we're getting back to a more logical, practical, and scientific use of the aromatization that occurs when you're looking for a stack design. That synergy comes into play again.
I've talked to quite a few bodybuilders pro bodybuilders from the early 2000s, and they talked about the abuse that they did for the anti-estrogens. And yeah, the crazy amounts of letrozole every day for a whole week before the show. And they're like, oh man, like at the time, no one really knew any better because getting blood work done wasn't really a popular thing back then. So they were just like, we just know you got to kill estrogen and come in, super grainy and dry. And everyone I've talked to that was a good competitive bodybuilder back in the day that's barely hanging on by a thread now, they're like, dude, our tendons are ruined. Every single one of them complains about tendon related issues.
That's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. And and I tell people, like, you know what? For as much money as these people spend in over the counter supplements at, a minuscule dose of what's actually effective, just, take off a month or two from buying all that crazy stuff and run down to La Paz, Mexico, which is right outside of Baja, or right outside of Cabo, and you can get good stem cells for under $2,000, and then just be done with it and just be healthy again.
Yeah. That's not going to bring their lipids back, unfortunately. I've had personal experience with chronically crashed estrogen, and it's hell. I mean, I finally got my HDL above 40 on my last blood work, which I just ran. And I had my last coach had me on 2 milligrams of Arimidex typically every day for about 3 years. So my lipids were crushed, my estrogen it's taken about a year to come back. And that's been the only, you know, not the only two sides I've had. There's the, the sexual side of things too, but yeah, I that generation was so big. It's like, high estrogen means high fat, and that's not necessarily the case. It's still going to be productive in prep. We need it to build muscle. We need it to recover. We need it to sleep. We need it to have conversations with our wives. And be empathetic. So
It's a necessity. You're demonizing something that's truly essential to your daily life.
hmm and
You know,
and you're doing it with breast cancer medication. You know what I mean? It's not even meant for necessarily, the what we're using it for. And then you can get into the suicide inhibitor versus the aromatase inhibitor versus the selective estrogen receptor modulator. None of them are great. Exemestane, if you have to choose, for me personally, what are your thoughts on choices like that?
when I started, really, really monitoring my own blood work and, checking the different variables on what's causing it, like versus how do I feel? Like, hey, I feel really good, but, hey, my estrogen's coming back at, mid 60s. I'm like, you know what? I feel really good and I'm not having any visual issues. I'm going to let it ride because if I drop it into the 30s, I have to keep my carbs so high to maintain any kind of sexual stimulation. Like, like when you get in prep and you're just like super, super depleted and you're like, cool, I get 50 grams of carbs. Bro, 50 grams of carbs do not fuel boners. It just doesn't work.
No.
So what I started noticing that, and I do a lot of this for my people too, is that if I give them exemestane, aromasin early on, then we can just use Arimidex as needed, which for the most part, it's either never needed or it's definitely never needed more than 0.5 milligram at a time. You're getting ahead of the situation. So what you're doing is you're preventing the body from converting the testosterone into estrogen, but it's not affecting the natural production of estrogen, which is crucial because when you use things like Arimidex at 1 milligram pulls out over 80% of your estrogen. So if you're taking this, every other day, bro, your body's not producing that much estrogen that you just need to constantly be siphoning it out of the body. Just get ahead of it, find that nice balance, and you're going to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really well said. There's especially the food to the sex correlation too. It really changes in between what phase you're doing. And yeah, I think I
Women
think
get that
getting
too. It's not just limited to guys.
yes, absolutely. More so, I would say. More so. Um their sex drive is more fragile than ours, and my experience. But the overuse of Arimidex, specifically Arimidex, is something that people don't really talk about. It's like sometimes you can't get off the couch. Have you ever taken 2 milligrams a day for a
Oh,
period of
yeah. Yeah.
time?
When your estrogen is tanked, the last thing you want to do is be a functioning human. You're like,
Yeah,
just leave me to die.
literally. And that's where I find that the most suffering in a contest prep tends to come from is the hormonal inside and the injection frequency. A lot now with the GLPs, a lot of people can diet, a lot of people can do cardio. We love to train, but it's the ancillaries that I think are causing the most discomfort in preps. And so I've been able to work with a lot of people, get them in good shape using very minimal, just because it's a personal affliction that I've had, and I'm not trying to do that to anybody else.
Yeah. No, I mean, most good coaches have experienced some really negative side effects, and we would like to prevent our people from going through those same struggles.
hmm Yeah, you know it exactly.
Yeah. I mean, good Lord. I mean, there's been all sorts of crazy things. I think the one thing that I've noticed across the board is that for the most part, most performance enhancing drugs don't truly make people angry except for halo testing. Um, and it's really just a lack of food. And everyone in contest prep is basically just like an oversized baby, like in a Snickers commercial. Like, hey man, you're kind of an asshole. You should probably eat some rice cakes. Okay, thanks. It was way better.
Yeah, literally. That's funny. Yeah, I think with it's a cue for the time too, because we have so many ways to optimize, our mitochondria, our energy production, sleep. When it comes down to just the bare bones of things, it really does. It's just you're just not eating enough food to be in a good mood,
Yeah,
pretty much.
happens all the time. We were talking about the mitochondria related stuff, and I've talked about this before. I think we talked about this on another podcast. I love. I don't know if you've ever done any business with them. Cosmic Nootropic.
No.
So Cosmic Nootropic, I was doing some affiliate work for them, and they're one of my favorite vendors, bar none. They have one of the coolest catalogs you've ever seen. But with all the tariffs and political related stuff, most of their products get shipped in from Russia, and then they have a US warehouse, and then it goes out. When they started having shipping related issues, they ended up finally just saying, look, for the time being, we can no longer sell products in the US or to the US. And then, hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to resume that business. But their catalog is just mind blowing. And we were talking about mitochondria related stuff because they sent me a message. They're like, hey, we'd love for you to discuss this product with your people. It's a skincare related product. And most of the time when people send me stuff like that, it's just, like a quick money grab thing. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I read it. I read through the email because I liked them. And I was like, oh, I actually don't know what these ingredients are. So I started doing some research on it. One of the thing is the active ingredient through all of the 3 different products that they carry. They carry a gel, a serum, and there's another thing, and I'm drawing a brain fart on it. But anyway, they all have the same active ingredient, which is SKQ1, which is a mitochondria-related enhancer. And so when you do the gel, it just sits on the surface level. And then when you do the serum, because they have the same active ingredient, but just different delivery drivers, it actually helps break through the blood barrier and will circulate through the whole body. And I was like, you know what? It sounds interesting. Let me try it. So I did the gel first. I was like, I want to do this for at least 3 weeks. Let me see what it's like. And then I can do the other one for an equal amount of time and give an honest comparison for it. Because if I just tell you, like, this is what the internet says it's supposed to do, that doesn't do me any good, because then I just feel like I'm lying to people because I didn't even try it. Mm-hmm. By day 2, it was a completely life-changing experience. All the darkness that was underneath my eyes was completely gone. Like I used to have like raccoon eyes, and just kind of chopped it up to be in Portuguese because a lot of us look like that. Gone. Wow. All the tightness throughout the forehead, everything. It looked like I had, like a laser skincare treatment and Botox. And then when I started doing the serum where it could actually really penetrate deep into the skin, that was the game changer. It's like, holy shit, man. Like, it looks like I reversed my aging by like 3 years. And I started getting random compliments from people. That is such an important thing with restoring your mitochondria related health. These little cells that produce energy, and they're everywhere, which is one of the reasons why I'm so adamant about people taking evening primrose oil, primarily just, GLA. You can get it from other sources too, but evening primrose is probably one of the easiest things to acquire in a large supplement store. When we talk about mitochondria related stuff in the bodybuilding aspect of it, a lot of people are talking about SLU-PP332, which works tremendously. It's not the only thing that's out there for it. People have MOTC, and there's, SS31, mm-hmm. All sorts of options. How would you recommend someone utilize something like this, or what would you use in a contest prep? Do you like to front load SS31? I hear a lot of people talking about wanting to prime their body with the SS31, and then they will make the transition into MOTC.
Yeah. Really great topic here. There can certainly be mitochondrial fatigue and overstimulation we've seen specifically in the SLU. So I'll have myself and my clients supplement with a trademarked name brand called MitoPure. It's sold under many different names, but the ingredient is MitoPure, and it helps stabilize the mitochondria and refuel what the SLU might push out energy-wise in terms of just how much stimulation it receives. And so I'm a big fan of SS31. And then I've had a lot of great success with Mott C. Me and Nick Walker were talking about how much we both love Mott C. We'll have to get him on sometime because he's like all about the peptides now. And it's really cool to talk to him about it. But the the front loading of the SS31 is really good, and it needs to be done early in prep. And the morning dosage can cause a lot of fatigue, a lot of brain fatigue, and almost like a low blood sugar feeling. I've had that with clients and then myself. And so if you do it pre-bed and you're really priming that mitochondrial, because the SS31 is just going to make everything else work better. And you start with something like an oral administrative like SLU to keep it more practical, and then you work your way into stacking that with the Mott C. And then age is a huge factor here too. We have our natural Mott C levels decline as we age. So someone, mid 20s like me, I love 1 milligram a day at about 16 to 12 weeks out. I did the 10 milligram week total, breaking it 5 to 5. You see guys like Vigorous Steve recommend this dose and things like that. I like the daily dosing. And Nick Walker has been taking it pre-workout. He's been liking that. I always do fasted cardio, and I love that endorphin feeling. So I typically take it in the morning. But yeah, the priming of the mitochondria, that's something that is not discussed enough. It's like when people, they want the gear, but they don't want the health subs. You know what I mean? They want the SLU, they want to feel good. And then it's like, 10 weeks in, it's like, damn, I kind of feel like trash. It's like, should have done your homework.
I, I I hope that this kind of message really resonates with people. Not so much the fact that I just want everyone to learn, which I do, but I want people to translate that into a real life application to understand that if you can make your body work more efficiently, you don't need to suffer nearly as much and you don't need to take nearly as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, would you drive your car across country with a dirty air filter? It could do it, but it would fucking work. Or put on a nice one, a clean one, and be like, wow, it's driving so much better. I get so much better miles per gallon. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. That like contest prep, I'll throw out a stack here. With the mitochondria focus would be my top 5 would be Retta, obviously, not mitochondrial only, but Retta, Mott C, SLU, 5-amino, methylene blue. That would be my top 5 mitochondrial stack supplements in a contest prep or even in a mini cut. And we like, people listening, they hear us talk about prep and cutting when to implement these drugs, and it's simply just an energy thing. I think the cognitive impairment that comes with dieting and tons of cardio, I love feeling alert, focused, motivated, positive, optimistic, and that's something that those compounds help me experience in the gym and out of the gym. So it's a sustainable model too, because it's not like amphetamines or caffeine or clenbuterol, where you're going to have to take Nebividol now because you worked your way to 160 micrograms and your resting heart rate's 120 and now you're trying to sleep and now you're adding T3. So I do love the new age stuff. I know you're a fan of that stuff as well. And yeah, you said it best. I hope people take that into account and consideration and just educate themselves more because it doesn't have to suck. It doesn't. I know it's like almost salesy to say that, but prep is like easy now, bro. It's really not that
Prep
hard.
is way easier than off season.
Mm-hmm.
I dread force feeding myself to eat. I know that like it's just part of the deal. Like last night, I had a full pound of mashed sweet potatoes with my steak. One, delicious. But that translated over into having one of the craziest quad pumps that I had. When we were texting this morning, my first leg extension, I could feel my entire quad being like whoosh. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so dope.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. One set in feeling's the best.
We're talking about feeling good and, sometimes you take something and gives you a little bit of a bogged down feeling. I wanted to ask you, Do you ever have any issues when you take growth hormone in the middle of the day or even in the morning that you just feel like you're fighting sleep? I've done it and I'm like, okay, like I get it. My workout is phenomenal. I got like this huge new level of pump. Like the fullness is great, but dude, I just cannot stay awake. I'm just like dragging ass for hours.
Yeah. And it's funny because that really tends to happen in the off season only, not in prep when you think you'd be more tired. In prep, I personally dose my growth hormone intramuscular prior to training for the caloric expansion aspect of I'm just trying to burn more calories. There's really not, obviously the IGF-1 is going to convert by the time I finish training, but I'm not sipping on 100 grams of carbs. I'm not pinning Humalog before. I think the fatigue and the lethargy comes from the uh, state you're in. But if I were to take, as your dosage as well, if I were to take 9 units, I'm out. And so it's almost counterproductive for me. So I'll do off season right now, off pre-prep, I'll do my morning and night dose. That's all I'm doing a growth hormone right now. That will change drastically, as the show gets closer. But that is a way not only I can combat the lethargy, but I'm optimizing, I'm lowering my cortisol in the morning. And then at nighttime, I'm getting the increased estradiol IGF-1 conversion. And so I feel you there. It is a fight. It's like, I feel like I can will myself awake, but you really don't want to.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like if I just close my eyes for 5 minutes, I'll I'll be fine. I
Mhm.
remember, and don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure Kurt Haven said this, and someone had asked him about what is the optimal dose of growth hormone. Like, when do you find your optimal dose? He goes, if you take growth hormone before you go to bed and it stimulates you, then that's producing less than what your natural production would be, and that once you start feeling sleepy, then that is your first tick into the optimization. He worded it a little bit different, but I'm paraphrasing it. So when you get growth hormone, especially when you get it from like, just like a Chinese company, and they range anywhere from 3.3 milligrams per vial, 5 milligrams, 10, and I've seen as high as 15. That's not common, but I've seen it. Even at a 3.3 milligram vial, and you break it down to, I'm taking 3 IUs, so it's 1 milligram. Dude, I'm in a fucking coma. And I started thinking, I'm like, do I just not produce growth hormone? He's the only person I've ever heard make that recommendation of starting low and tapering up until you feel sleepy. I never heard anybody else say that before. Have you ever heard that before?
I've never heard that before. I'm like you. I now question my pituitary gland heavily after hearing that because I 3 units. I fall asleep while driving.
Yeah, he said that, and I was like, dude, does my body just like, am I dying on the inside?
Yeah.
I hope not. That's sad.
It's interesting. So I did bloods and I always get my serum GH tested about a week ago, and I didn't pin any growth hormone before. I wanted to see what my naturals would be. It would be about 18 hours since my last injection, and my levels were at 9. So that would be around my natural production. I was pretty happy with that. But Kurt's a smart guy. I'm sure there's some logic behind there. Me personally, I've had a different experience.
Yeah, and I've run it significantly higher too. Just you got to feel it out. When
Mhm.
when does the numb hand start really coming into play? And I think for me and a lot of the people that I deal with, they're very aware of their body, so they're aware of making sure that they have the proper mineral and electrolyte balance to help prevent that.
Mhm.
So for the most part, I don't know too many people, especially on my team, that ever complain about like, oh, bro, my hands are numb. I can't squeeze them. That seems to be a potassium and sodium related issue.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a single person ever say their hands were numb. What can I do about this? And I've like you have coached 100 plus and definitely 100 plus growth hormone users from Chinese to pharma. I've never had someone that couldn't have had that issue fixed with mineral balance. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. The body's so interesting, so fun.
It is. It is. And the differences are so minute, but very cool too, because maybe Kurt's had that experience. Maybe he gets stimulated from the GH, and that's an interesting topic in itself. I've never, I would like to experience that, but I haven't.
Yeah, I've never been stimulated from it. I definitely can't fall asleep if I take mushrooms too late in the day. That's atrocious, because then you're just sitting there and you're like, what life problems can I solve today? Especially
Literally.
if you take 20 milligrams of new pep first thing in the morning, then you're wired for the whole day. You're just like, we're going to save the world. I'm going to become Batman. I'm going to dance in the grocery store. Oh yeah.
Literally, yeah. You're cleaning your ceilings and shit like that. I've been there.
Yeah. We got to go to Home Depot. We got to do house projects. This place looks like shit.
Seriously, yeah. Or you start selling your closet, you know?
Yeah.
It should happen.
Well, hey man, I know we could sit here and talk for hours, but I know you got a bunch of questions on your Instagram. But before you read yours, I will read one of mine. Most of them, were things that we already talked about, but this one was a really unique one. And I don't know if you have any perspective on it. So put it out there and you tell me what you got. Will you ask Elliott his top 3 male porn star performers?
Funny guy. Slow clap. Very nice.
Yep.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Very
Almost got
funny.
him. You really thought about it for a second, and you're like, I really like Johnny Sins, but J-Mac's pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. I'll go with the generic top. What was it? Top 3?
Top 3.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Jack Black, and probably Jake Gyllenhaal. Those are my top 3.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't think he's my man crush, but he's cool.
Yeah. Those are the movies I've seen. That's probably the closest to male porn that I've watched with those guys in there off the dome. Could be wrong, but Donnie Darko was a little kinky. It was a little weird, man.
Okay. John Hamm. No man should be that good looking. Or Henry Cavill. When he did anything he does, but when he did The Count of Monte Cristo, even when he was younger, you're like, whew, that's a good looking dude right there.
Yeah. I respect it. I like good looking people. Like I have no problem calling anyone like a man or woman good looking. I love to see it. Like I love being in public, seeing a nice looking couple with nice looking kids and
Oh yeah.
just good looking people. Makes you feel good.
Well, and like from a coaching standpoint, like I've completely stripped sexuality out of looking at people like that. I'm just like, oh, this is a great physique. This is beautiful to look at. It's guy or girl. Like we can do that with bodybuilding and it's not gay. Maybe it's a little bit gay, but for the most part, it's not gay. What is really weird, and I always feel super, super weird, like even asking someone, I was in a public bathroom and this guy walked by and whatever his cologne was so good, but it felt so awkward to tell him like, hey man, you smell great. What are you wearing? And I was like, I'm just going to leave.
Yeah. Maybe wait till he finishes peeing next time.
We were both washing our hands. It had passed the weird time, but it still just didn't feel right.
Yeah. I will just next time maybe ask from the side of him, not directly behind him in his ear, and approach him that way. He might tell you.
I'll find you in the parking lot.
Yeah, you just right behind him. Slow turn. What you wearing, bro?
All right. So let's go through some of your questions and we'll answer them, and then it's time to eat for everybody.
Perfect. Question 1. We can do top 5 or top 10. You tell me whenever. What do people?
Top 5. I'm sure we'll give some good detail.
Perfect. What do most people get wrong about building muscle? Stimulating.
That's a great question.
I had to think about that one.
Yeah. The proper muscle stimulation would be really key. So I do a thing with my athletes where I call it time under load, TUL. So instead of people talking about time under tension, because the way that it was explained to me is that time under tension, like if we're doing a bench press, the tension is as it's coming down towards you. That works on a lot of stability related muscles, which is fine. It's still important to have, But what I'm focusing on is how much tissue trauma I can stimulate into that particular area. So what I want to do is focus on the load as I push away from me when the muscle should be firing and contracting. So I might tell my athletes, hey, I want 3 seconds or 5 seconds time under load. So in a bench press, you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're slowing it down, even though you might be doing dramatically less weight. Forcing more of those fibers to fire will help stimulate that. And if your main objection is just to break everything down in little microscopic tears, and you've had your red meat before you train, so you have, abundance of arachidonic acid flowing through the system, stimulating that inflammation, assuming that the post-workout nutrition is on point, that muscle is going to be like hair and come back thicker and stronger every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great answer, honestly. Yeah,
You
good
can steal
question,
that.
whoever asked that. Yeah. I went with I think it's just the idea that more is always better. I think that's kind of a misconception. You know, performance, recovery, and visual changes come through a synergistic blend of nutrition, stimulation through training, PEDs and things like that too. And doing 100 sets of squats, eating 100 meals a day, and doing 1,000 milligrams is not going to be better than a tenth of that. So I think it's just the problem that people think they're going to get more if it feels hard. Do you have that sense as well?
Oh, for sure. And like if I told people what I did today for my leg workout, they'd be like, "Oh, cool, warm up." You got to listen to your body. You
Mhm.
If you're in tune with it, you've been doing it for more than a handful of years, you'll know like when your body is tapping out and saying, "Hey, we're done for the day." Bro, I did leg extensions with a couple of sets of hamstring curls laying down and then a squat machine for 3 sets. I couldn't walk. I waddled to the car like I was a pregnant lady. The pump was so atrocious that you can't even train anymore. So then you got to call it. Like I've stimulated the muscle and I'm going to go home and eat and cry.
Yeah, yeah. Very well said. Well, good question. We'll move on to the next.
Very good question. I like that one.
This is a good one. If you had to quantify it, what separates advanced bodybuilders from intermediate bodybuilders?
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Meaning that you can truly feel what your body is doing, not just from a muscle standpoint, but what you have going on inside too. Like if you're in tune with your body to the level that you can feel that when your blood is getting thicker, like if you forgot to take your aspirin and you notice that you're kind of huffing and puffing walking around the house, that's kind of a specialty thing. Like most people probably would have no clue, but the more that you pay attention to your own body in every aspect of it, you'll be able to figure out how to make the correct adjustments to take the next step so you're constantly thriving in all aspects of life.
That's pretty much the answer I had was awareness as well.
Yeah.
Really good one. I think it's just the advanced guys almost goes back to the first question. You know what stimulus you need. You know how certain things affect you. No one knows your body better than you, and you're able to, map out a way or problem to solve in that way. I think the biggest difference is going to be something like time. I think anyone can become a good bodybuilder with the proper time and guidance. And then I think that the awareness, once you've used that time and that guidance and that, mentorship to get you where you need to be, can be the biggest advantage you can have. So, if you're going to be looking at someone who just, maybe uses the, what is it, bodybuilding.com diet, not
Yeah.
personalizing them for someone who knows themselves, that person's going to progress a lot faster and sustain that success as well. So let's see. All right. This is a good one. Is training to failure necessary for growth?
I have my opinion on this, but I'll let you go first.
So I don't believe training to failure is necessary for growth. I think that the literature we have on training, Todd Lee did a great video on this that we did on his pod. It was pretty much about that 1 rep in reserve, the 2 rep in reserve is going to yield higher muscle gain if the context is proper, meaning your recovery, sleep, nutrition, and training is on point. So if I'm able to leave one rep in the tank and I really know I had one uh, single rep left, I've essentially taken that muscle to 99% failure. And that's not only going to lead to growth, but it's going to recover a little bit quicker, as if I am not properly giving my body the nutrients and I'm taking it beyond a load my central nervous system can really handle. I'll go with that.
Completely spot on. That's exactly what I said. The only thing that I would have added is, everyone's human. So everyone's going to have, some days where it's a knife through melted butter and everything feels awesome. And some days it's a knife through concrete and you're just like, dude, my day is just shit. I think that it is important for emotional well-being that you have those days where you push it past your limits and really go all out and go to failure, because you need that emotional release where you're like, okay, I'm having a good workout, but I have work-related issues. I have significant issues going on at home with my spouse or, whatever it is. Sometimes you just need to emotionally blow all of that aggression out, which is going to translate into, going over what you would normally do or what's programmed for you. And I don't think that that should be something that's done every day. If you have that kind of emotional struggles going on a daily basis, you got to really think about what's going on in your personal life. But occasionally, I think that it is beneficial for your emotional well-being to have those crazy, blowout days.
Yeah, I would agree. There's something to be said about building off workouts too. At the start of prep, when I know that date, I hit that 20-week out mark, that workout's going to be emotionally driven. It's not going to have a lot of the perfect form science backed lifting we see on Instagram these days. It's going to be, deadlifting till I can't anymore. My nose bleeds. So, you really well said. Good ad there for sure. We'll do like one or two more.
All right.
Let's see. Ooh, this is a really good one. How do PEDs change your approach to coaching? That's a good one.
I this is kind of an interesting one because I initially wanted to say that it doesn't. Um, and I say that because I've coached the same way for so long that there might be some kind of corrections or maybe, some small adjustments to the peaking process, or maybe I've changed the way that we structure food in a particular order. But for the most part, I've been coaching the same way for so long. It's funny to see it come full circle too. I just had this conversation with Eric Espana, who's a men's physique pro, who's a good friend of mine. And we were talking about being truthful to who you are, and that I've done things the same way for so long that I can still remember a group of people being like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a whack job. And now it's come full circle. And those same people have asked me to come and be on their podcast or come do a seminar for them. I'm like, what happened? You thought I was a weirdo who was just making up these fabricated things. And now it's come full circle that the same things I said 8 years ago are now being treated as Bible. So
Really
I
well
don't I
said.
don't I don't think that there's anything PD related that's made me change anything. I think I'm more aware of the detriments of the abuse. And so I really try and instill that into people, that the clenbuterol abuse is just not necessary. Like, I don't have a single athlete that ever goes over 60 micrograms per day, because you're just there to stimulate it. I don't want you to be a walking tweaker where you're just vibrating all day. All I wanted there is to help, aid whatever you were doing. So, long answer, I don't think there's any PD that have changed the way that I've done things. I'm just staying the course and making people aware that, more is not always the right answer.
Yeah, really, really well said. I think my coaching approach doesn't necessarily change from a natural to enhanced athlete, but I think the mistakes in coaching could be magnified with an enhanced athlete. So I not that I'm paying attention to a natural more than enhanced, but I'm more cautious in the approaches I take with the enhanced versus a natural guy, down to every detail, including administration. I want to make sure they're using the proper gauges, lengths, things like that, administration techniques. We're not, just taking on vitamin C here. Even if you're just on TRT, these conversations need to be had, and there's certainly more risk involved. I think on the coaches and the athletes end, but I don't think it's going to necessarily change a whole lot of what we're doing, like you said, other than just the the safety.
The fundamentals are there. And I had a conversation with someone. They're like, I want to do what you do. And I was like, I would love that. I would love for you to do what it is that I do. Prep a natural person, get a natural person truly shredded, because that is going to be the base of what you do for everyone. The drugs are just little fun add-ons. But if you don't understand the basics of getting someone without chemical manipulation in proper contest shape, you're going to be just throwing shit at the wall hoping it sticks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So with natural bodybuilding, there's no room for error. If you have someone, that fucks up with an injection or whatever, or they miss something, you can play chemical, catch up. If
Mm-hmm.
something wrong in natural bodybuilding and it puts them back a week in natural bodying is a long time.
Yeah.
So
It could be game
I
over.
always tell people, like, if you want to do this, I implore you to do it, because it's a great career, and I've never met a more loving community. Real bodybuilders are so supportive of each other. And I hope everyone gets to experience that kind of love. But you got to start at the bottom. You got to start with the basics.
Yeah. Yeah. Like most of us started coaching for free too. You gotta, that's just the work you gotta put in. And there's a right way of doing things. Credibility is everything. Telling the truth, like we started the episode saying, is always going to be at the forefront because it always comes out and people talk in this community. You know what I mean? So the, yeah, natural versus enhanced question, that seems to be something that gets thrown around a lot, but I think you really quantified it well, that the mistakes might be greater for the natural, even though the risk is higher for the enhanced. I think we could both agree on that assessment.
For sure.
Awesome. You want to do one more?
Yeah, we'll do one more, and then we'll go eat, because I know we're both hungry.
Perfect. Right. A lot of coaching questions. Let's see. Let's try to find one not so focused. This is a good one. This is a life question. What should someone focus on if they feel stuck right now? Not necessarily in bodybuilding. I'm making progress in my physique, but I feel like I have lost my sense of purpose. I'm a single man, 24 years old, about to be 25, living at home. What is the best advice you could give me? That's generic, but
It's a good one. I have an answer for it, but go ahead. I want to hear yours.
yeah, I think this is something that a lot of young men find themselves at a place at right now. There seems to be the lack of purpose in our world. I think a great expression I heard someone say once was, men will crawl through glass for a purpose. I truly believe that. I think that we're called as men to be ambitious, to be driven, and to want to have something to protect, provide for, and not necessarily, take care of, but you want that ambitious drive, that end goal, right? And you said you're doing the bodybuilding, and that's going well for you, but you feel minuscule in other parts of your life. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with, there's nothing wrong with like living with your parents or anything, with just, the economy is another conversation, but I think controlling what you can control on a day-to-day basis will help lead to that too. And what I mean is very simple. If you're in this, rut, we'll call it, I love to just wake up and immediately, what can I control? You can make your bed. You can do the dishes for your mom. You can take out the trash. You can look for certain opportunities coinciding with your meal plan. And if you find that is a passion you want to continue down, you're going to have to fund that passion, because with anything, you're not entitled to make it. You don't deserve to be passionate about something and that's your career. You're going to have to, eat a little, what, at the beginning of any endeavor. And so I think that there should remain an optimistic standpoint. I think you need to control your own variables. And then I think you need a reflective period to find out what you want to pursue, how to pursue it, and if it's practical for those in your life and yourself.
It's really good. I'm going to make the safe assumption that this guy is an American, and then he'll understand this. You're entitled to the pursuit of happiness. You're not guaranteed that it's going to happen. So when you have a realistic expectation that I need to enjoy the journey and change your perspective on it, things will seem significantly less daunting. You're doing great in fitness, which is fantastic. And that's a great base to work with because it teaches you discipline and it teaches you that staying the course and hard work will pay dividends for what you want out of it. I will dip into my own personal thing to share this. When I was growing up, a good portion of my family had a guideline, what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to go to school. They wanted me to take over a good chunk of the family business. And when you look at it on paper, you're like, oh man, you got the keys to the kingdom. You've already got an established business and people just want to hand it over to you. But it would have meant living in someone's shadow. And I didn't want to be, oh, you're Adrian's grandson for the rest of my life. I wanted to establish something that I could be proud of and to leave my own quote unquote legacy, so to speak. And while it's not easy, I mean, there's a lot of struggle with making your own path. If you've ever walked through the forest and there was no path and you just had to start making your own, can it be done? Yeah, it's going to be hard. But finding what makes you happy and what feels something that's going to be of value is going to be a tricky thing that you're going to have to find. There's a place in right outside of Santa Cruz in California called Mount Madonna, and it's a meditation retreat. And they do yoga and they have all sorts of stuff there. But I always implore people to find something that's quote unquote me time. It's a place or a thing that you do that you don't take anyone. You don't take your girlfriend. You don't take a family member. You don't take your best friend. It's something that you can do by yourself that helps melt the rest of the world away. And once you have those moments of clarity and you can figure out, hey, what could I do that would leave a lasting impact on other people, even if it was one person that you were able to help, chase it. It's not going to be easy, and it could be something where as simple as, maybe you sell used cars, but you help someone who had no credit get into something and they were so ecstatic because they never thought that they would have been able to buy a car, that they've been taking the bus forever. Even though that doesn't sound like much to the outside world to be like, oh, you sell used cars. Yeah, but you made an impact in someone else's life. And I don't think there's too many things better than that. We get so blessed to do what we do and we can generate positive impact, long-term positive impact in other people's lives. And that's so rewarding. I think if you can find something that would leave your mark as being someone who was helpful, that emotional reward that you get from that will make you want to chase it even more. So whether you stay in the fitness world and you become a personal trainer and you're able to help people lose weight or, function because they have, knee related issues or whatever, you're helping someone. You could be a physical therapist, maybe you're a great artist and your art helps someone feel something that they didn't feel before. People could be like, oh, that sounds really corny. That's okay. It could be corny. But when you have an emotional connection with something, that's pinnacle. So my recommendation is to find something that you can connect with someone else with.
That was a great answer. I like how you focus that on self-fulfillment too. I got a hint of, he sounded a little jaded and, mentioning the detail that he lives with his parents. It's like, you got to stop caring what other people think to find that self-fulfillment first. If you're going to worry about how the internet looks at you or how anyone looks at you because you wake up in a home that people love you with every day, assuming, then there are people way worse off. So I love that. Just that self-fulfillment. Monetary value is something that can come and go and will come and go in life. You're going to have those bad times and you're going to have the upswing as well. But yeah, as long as you are being fulfilled, and a lot of that comes from being charitable. For me, I'm Catholic, so this is something that I, being Christ-like is easy way to fulfill myself mentally. And then just with I think you're right. He does, I checked out his profile while you're talking. He does look like an American, younger, young Gen Z kind of guy. And so I think a lot of people are afflicted. They feel unheard in that demographic. And so right now it is important to the optimistic side of things and then remain, take it day by day. Like you said, win the day.
And I'm sure with, being the younger generation and, you're seeing, the fake it till you make it people all over the internet. And you're like, well, how come I don't have a Lambo at 21? I feel like a failure. I'm at home with my folks. Bro, if you're not paying rent and you're able to stockpile a little bit of money to get yourself in a better situation, you are winning the battle, because it's an expensive as shit thing to be an adult. But if you take it back and just simplify it, do you remember a rap group called Lox, LOX?
Mm-hmm.
They had a song. She said, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the respect. If you focus on yourself instead of chasing other people's affirmation, by the time you've truly generated real success, you won't care what other people think about you, because you'll be so busy falling in love with yourself and your own success. Cool. You want to find, I'm going to make the safe assumption that he's also looking for love. If you are focused on yourself and you're doing great things in life, it doesn't even have to be, huge amounts of money. As long as you're thriving, even emotionally, you want to find someone who wants to do life with you. I have 3 rules to happiness in life. Be a good person, don't do harm to your neighbor, make your own money. If you can achieve those, you can achieve anything in life, because you should never be with someone who needs you or you need them. You want to share life with them. You want to share your life adventures, your trials and your tribulations, good and bad. But if someone, if you lost your job and you couldn't coach anymore, I'm not going to worry that, oh, my wife is going to leave me because I don't make nearly the amount of money that I used to. We're life partners. We enjoy doing life together.
Really well said. Yeah, I think, again, that was great. Becoming elite human capital. I would focus on that first. Just like the song he referenced, once you become elite human capital and you really find that to be your vocation, you're not going to have a lot of concerns about what the internet's thinking. You're going to, and another thing is, he said, touch on what content you're consuming, because that Lamborghini on Instagram is rented, it's getting repoed, things like that. People are never, it's a highlight reel. And that's something to recognize too. There's no true millionaires at 21 years old unless it is an inheritance or the 1% of 1% of 1% of 1%. And they're not on Instagram. You know what I mean? They're trying to sell you something.
OnlyFans.
They're on OnlyFans. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, really well said. And things get better too. We wish the best for you, but really good question.
Yeah. Very good question. All the questions were great. Yeah.
All good questions.
Good job, everyone.
Sorry to the 100 people.
And last little bit of life advice for that young gentleman: grow a beard. Your life is significantly better with a beard.
Dude, that's real.
Right?
Yeah. Grow a beard.
Maybe one that's a little bit more trim than mine. I kind of got like the terrorist ISIS beard thing going on. But that's just one phone call away from my barber.
Exactly, dude. Once you got the
Shout,
face
shout
card
out,
going,
Robert.
life on easy mode after that. Just be hot. Be hot. You'll be rich.
Says every Instagram girl.
Literally.
Why doesn't everyone get invited on yachts?
Yeah, seriously. What the fuck? I do it just for the coke. No, I'm just
That's such a Florida thing.
kidding.
Well, cool. All right, brother. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to come and jibber jabber with me. I hope people got some good education out of it.
I think so, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. We'll have to do this again sometime. I've had a lot of positive feedback on our first trio podcast, and
Yep.
looking forward to doing more things in the future. I'm glad everyone's receiving it really well.
Yeah. Let's get Nick Walker on. We'll have a super nerd conversation.
For sure. I'll text him right now. We'll get him on.
Tell me he needs a beard, but yeah, come do it.
Yeah, dude. He's fully bald now, man. We need to find someone with a beard. I'll hit up. Oh boy,
Who's got a good
Pickens,
beard?
actually. Who's smart with a good beard?
Jason Huh.
Jason, huh? I don't have that contact. I'll leave that one to you.
All right, people, leave Jason's phone number in the comments so I can call him.
Please dox him. Address too, social security. Thanks.
Yeah, shoe sized.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, brother. Enjoy your day.
Likewise, man. Appreciate you.